loves, welcome back. My name is Lauren and I'll be your host on today's episode of ranking all of the books that I read in 2020. So yes, today is a little bit of a different video. I've never done a ranking video, but I feel like it's honestly a good time to do one because if you guys don't know, I did start booktube about a month ago, but I did all of my reading last year. This year I'm actually going through kind of a reading slump, which kind of sucks, and it sucks that I'm about to start fall semester and honestly probably not read a lot during that time either. But last year was the year that I kind of got into reading, and when I say get into reading, I mean like actually picking up books to read them for fun. But last year I read 24 books, which is actually a lot of books now that I think about it. So yeah, today we're gonna be talking about all of the books that I read last year. Huge disclaimer, a lot of these books are cringy, YA, fantasy romance kind of books. I was going through a crisis, I didn't know what to read, and I picked up the books that I was familiar with. So a lot of these books are probably series that you have heard about a lot. There are also some singular books in here. So without further ado, I have my laptop here and I am going to show you guys what books I have on this list, and let's get into the categories that I've created for this. So this is the tier list that I have made. As you can see, we have all 24 books on the bottom, and a lot of them look very similar to each other. Also, all of these tiers are named after Kardashian quotes. Keeping Up with the Kardashians is like an exquisite place where quotes are just made. Let's go from top to bottom, okay? Let's start with the positives. Our first tier is called You're Lucky That I'm Gracing You With My Ideas. This is the kind of book that I loved it then, I love it now, I would recommend it, I would read it again probably. It graced me with its ideas. Right under that is also kind of like, it's like A level. We have Oh My God, My Boot, Not My Foot. It was a good book. I enjoyed it. It had good characters, it had good plot, it had something good, but it also had something that kind of like surprised me, like it took my foot, not my boot. And right under that, we have kind of mid-level. We have You're Cute Jeans. Now this is a book that's middle ground. It's middle energy. There's not a lot going on. It's kind of just like, it's like there. It's cute, maybe. And then here we start to get into the problem books. We have Kim, There's People That Are Dying. This is a book that's not necessarily the worst thing, you know? Like, I would be mad if I dropped my, like, $75,000 earring in the ocean. Like, I would be pissed. But at the same time, it's like, do I really need to be here in this moment right now? Like, I could probably read a different book during this time and, like, probably enjoy that one better, you know? It's that kind of book. There's people that are dying, and I'm choosing to read this book. Like, that's how it makes me feel. And then the bottom of the barrel, Call Me When You Want to Be Honest. This is a book that has some issues. I would have enjoyed it better if the book was honest with itself. Maybe this book scarred me from reading other books in this genre, which we'll get into later in the video. Without further ado, let's get started. The first book that we have here is A Very Simple Crime by Jerkins. This is a mystery novel. Is this book here. It says a brutally murdered woman, a grieving shattered husband, between them their mentally handicapped son with a long, troubling, violent history of outbursts. It seems like a very simple open and shut door case, or is it? Leo Hewitt is a rising legal star and now a junior deputy prosecutor. Once blamed for setting free a notorious child killer, he is eager to redeem himself by solving this intimate and grisly crime. This book was This was the first book that I read, I think, during 2020. I hadn't really gotten into reading that much, and it was a book that was like also mediocre at the same time, so it took me forever to read it. I didn't really know what was going on, and the characters were kind of bland, and I think for a murder mystery, it probably could do a lot better. So I'm gonna go ahead and put A Very Simple Crime in Kim, There's People That Are Dying. You know, obviously there are way better murder mysteries. There are also more gripping thrillers that I have read after reading this book. The next book that we have, I don't know if I read this one next. I think this was like my third book, and that's The Rosie Project. This is actually kind of a cute book, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't read this later in the year because I think, again, I was in that time period where I was kind of just like reading to try to get into it and I wasn't super invested. But The Rosie Project is kind of a cute romance story. This guy kind of has like his own mental problems where he basically like has to plan every second of his day, and he eats the same meals every week because he is also like a biology or like DNA professor. Very into, you know, just like have to find the perfect person to mate with. So he makes this project to try to find a wife, but then he meets this girl who is like absolutely the opposite of who he wants. So this book is cute, but it, again, I don't remember much about like whether I was invested in it. It was kind of annoying to read it sometimes because his character is so like type A anal about everything, but I think it's still a cute book and I would probably recommend it to someone, but like, you know, I probably won't reread it though, so I'm gonna put this in You're Cute Jeans because it's a cute story, but you know, it doesn't really like give me anything other than that. Oh god. The next like 6 books are Kiera Cass book. I had a bunch of Kiera Cass books and I was like, let's read these. So we're gonna start with the entire Selection series. Alright, is everyone ready? Let's strap in. First we have The Selection, the first book. If you've not read The Selection is basically like a YA romance series where the main character America goes through the selection, which is like this thing in this dystopian world where basically like 20 girls go to the palace to try to win over the prince's heart, and one person gets selected to be the next like queen. So the whole series kind of follows America going into the palace and being a part of the selection and trying to win over Maxon, who's the prince. But the first book I would say was not my favorite. I think The Selection, there are a few books in The Selection that I think are worth it, but this one just like was not. It was kind of like getting you into the series, but it was also super annoying because America is the character who just like has to be different. Like she doesn't want to put on a dress, she doesn't want to follow the rules, she wants to act like an animal at dinner. Like she just is like very annoying in that way. So I'm gonna put this one in, I would say Kim, There's People That Are Dying. You know, The Selection it's a good series and I think that you have to read this book to get into the other ones obviously, but I still wouldn't like recommend the first book on its own. I think you have to read the first book to get to the other books. Yeah, there are people that are dying and America is literally complaining about being chosen for the selection, so I'm not really feeling it yet, you know? The second book, however, The Elite, was way better. It's way more drama because now America is like more comfortable in the palace. She more understands why she's there and she kind of has more of a goal to do better. And I also loved the character development in this second book. I think that a lot of the girls in the house were very interesting. Her relationship with Maxon got a lot more interesting in the second book. So I'm gonna put this one in Your Cute Jeans. It's still not like something I would recommend because it's literally the Selection series, you know? Like I don't think it gets any higher than that. The next book, my least favorite. I think at this point in the series, you kind of get to this point where you're like, I think Maxon could do better. You know, you're almost rooting for Maxon to pick the other girl in the series, which if you have read it, you know what I'm talking about. I think at this point, you kind of get to this third book and you see how shitty America is to Maxon and you're like, do they even really need to be together? So I'm gonna put this one in Call Me You Wanna Be Honest, which might be a little harsh. I was very unsatisfied when I finished the third book. I think that it was just kind of like, It was a little too good to be true, and I think if it was more honest about their relationship, it would be better, but also it is a YA book, so the relationship is very surface level, so I understand the point. Now, the second 2 books are after the fact of the selection, and America and Maxon now have a daughter who is also going to go through the selection, and she has to pick through like 20 guys. A+ idea. I love the fact that this is basically like The Bachelor, but flipped around, and I love the main character. This was one of my favorite characters in the selection. I think that people really shitted on her because she was like stubborn and bossy, but we love girl bosses, so I kind of loved her. I think, again, this first book is kind of like though, because it's really introducing you to the whole thing and it's not really giving you a lot of substance. Also, she is the most annoying character to read in this first book because she has no like development. She's just kind of like, I don't really want to do this. I don't think I need a man. Like, she's that kind of character. So I'm gonna put this in also Kim, There's People That Are Dying, because the main character thinks that she knows everything and it's kind of annoying to read at some points. The Crown, however, I would also give Your Cute Jeans, because The Crown absolutely really made up for The Heir. She has some character development. We learn a lot more about the guys, and there's some drama with the guys, which I love. And then the last Kiera Cass book is called The Betrothed, which is not part of the selection series. It's just that after I finished all of her books, I was like, oh my god, Kiera Cass has more books? Let me see what else she has. So I picked up The Betrothed. It wasn't terrible. I gave it 3 stars, but it was just kind of like the same thing. Like, it was another love triangle, and it was another like princess like trying to win over the princes kind of vibe. It was basically the same story, just in a different world and a different sort of concept. And so for that reason, I'm also gonna say Kim, There's People That Are Dying, because it was like kind of like, what was the point, you know? Before we move on to the entire Mortal Instruments and Infernal Devices series, let's pick some singular books because I don't want to talk about another series for a while. Fierce Kingdom by Jen Phillips. I loved this book. I actually recommended this book in my recent Books You Should Read If You Get Bored Easily video. You should go check that out. This is basically a thriller about this woman and her toddler who gets stuck at the zoo one day after hours because these 2 teenage boys decide that they want to like be shooters and shoot up the place. So the whole book is her and her toddler hiding around the zoo, trying to stay safe while these shooters are still on the premises. And it was like 10 out of 10, super interesting. 100% gonna put it in oh my god, my boot, not my foot, because I was not expecting it to take my foot. I was expecting it to take my boot, and it took my foot too, and it was like amazing. We also have Animal Farm, which is a classic that I reread. I did read Animal Farm like freshman year of high school. Didn't really remember much about it, so I was like, I'll read it again, who knows. And it was actually pretty good. I was surprised at how like accurate it was to like depict like American capitalism. Do not quote me on that. I don't know if that's really what the book is about, but I remember the animals really representing political figures very accurately, and also like businesses very accurately. But I don't know if I would give it like oh my god, my boot, not my foot, because it wasn't like captivating in that way. But is it cute jeans? I don't really know. I'm gonna say You're Cute Jeans, because it's like, it's a cute story about animals, and it's also a very good discussion about like what's going on in our world, but it didn't like wow me, you know, because it is like a book that I read in high school, and it is kind of like a classic like allegory, like trying to educate you type of book, which there's nothing wrong with education. I think everyone should educate themselves, but it just like it was okay. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was important, and that's it. Let's go ahead and hit all of the Mortal Instruments and Infernal Devices books. Okay, so we have The City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the Mortal Instruments series. If I could go back and reread this one, I actually think that I would hate the series now. I think this book is very hard to get into, and I feel bad that this is the first book of the series, because I don't think it does the series justice, to be honest, but it is a YA fantasy book, so like what can you really expect, you know? I would have to put it in Kim, There's People That Are Dying. Like, would I recommend reading the first book? No. Would I recommend reading the series? Yes. So it's kind of like, again, kind of like these other books in this tier. You kind of have to read this book to get to the other ones, you know? Like, it's not worth it. There are people that are dying. The next book is City of Ashes, which is also equally kind of lackluster. You know, nothing really happens. It's still character development and setting up the whole series. So it also goes next to Kim, There's People That Are Dying, because it's kind of like, oh, we're not there yet. City of Glass, however, is 10 out of 10. Really, really surprised me there. It's gonna go in oh my god, my boot, not my foot, because you know, you read the first two books and you're like, like it's kind of like I don't know if I should keep going, and then you read City of Glass and you're like, you know what, I love this series. It really changes your mind about like everything. City of Fallen Angels, however, it's okay. It wasn't my favorite. Honestly, this might be an unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people say that this book is like a filler book, like it's kind of useless in the whole series, but I actually really enjoyed it because I feel like it was very character developing, because the characters just get out of this like very recent crisis and now they're kind of forced to move on to the next thing, and I think it sets up the next thing very well, and I think that the character relationships are built very well after the fact. So I would actually put this one in Your Cute Jeans, because I think that it's cute. It's cute. There are aspects of it that are cute, there are aspects of it that are important, and it's not terrible. Like, I'm not upset that there are people that are dying. I'm not upset that I'm in the situation. City of Lost Souls, however, I'm absolutely gonna put in Kim, There Are People That Are Dying, because the whole book is just about Jace. It's all about him. It's all about his problems, and it's about nobody else. Sure, it sets up a lot of the plot. Literally, people are dying, and Jace is like, oh my god, I'm not myself. Like, it's a bit much. Please don't get mad at me. It's a good book. I gave it 4 stars, I think. City of Heavenly Fire, however, it's a long book. It's a long track to get through. The ending was good, the conclusion was good, and it's also very satisfying, especially if you read the Infernal Devices during it. So I think I'm gonna say, oh my god, my boot, not my foot, because it's not gracing me with any ideas, because it's kind of like we've been on this whole journey the entire time, and like it's not offering me anything other, you know, it's not offering me any like philosophical knowledge, but it is very good. It took my breath away. I cried at the end of it. Now let's go to the Infernal Devices. These books are amazing. If you're gonna read one of the series, I recommend the Infernal Devices more than the Mortal Instruments, honestly. We have Clockwork Angel, which is the first book. It's okay. It's not bad. I'm gonna say it's cute jeans. Well, I actually might put this one in oh my god, my boot, not my foot, because it is the first book of the series, but unlike the other books that are first series at the bottom here, this book is the first of its series, but it also hits you like very hard to begin with. It sets up everything and everything makes sense and you're connected immediately. So I think for that reason it gets top tier already, because it's the first book and it grabs you immediately. Clockwork Prince gets, you're lucky that I'm gracing you with my ideas. First top tier book. It's amazing. Like, these last 2 books, I'm gonna throw Clockwork Princess up there too. They're both great. I cried at both of them. They're both so perfect. The love triangle is amazing. I still think about the characters to this day. I will never forget them. And also the best concept that I've ever read, because their love triangle is like so strong it's kind of scary. They graced me with ideas, they ripped my heart out, they ran me over twice, and I'm happy about it. And the last one from Cassandra Clare, we have Tales from the Shadowhunters Academy, collection of short stories after the fact of both series, where we follow Simon, who is one of the characters in the Mortal Instruments, and his journey attending the Shadowhunter Academy. Now this book is okay. It doesn't really add much to the series. I think it honestly was just written because like Cassandra Clare realized that everyone loves Simon so much, but it also like didn't really give me that much, though. It was kind of just like following him along because I was already attached to him. I don't think I would pick up this book if I didn't know who Simon was. So I'm gonna put it in your cute genes. It's a cute story. It's cute that I get to follow Simon around more, but I wouldn't really recommend it on its own. So we now have finished all of those series. Oh my god. So I read Misery by Stephen King, which I also recommended in my books you should read if you get bored easily. I love this book. It's my favorite Stephen King book, and honestly, yeah, you're lucky that I'm gracing you with my ideas. Actually, I might actually move it down to oh my god, my boot, not my foot, because it's not necessarily gracing me with any ideas, but it is surprising me in every way and like sticking with me for a long time. So I'm gonna say oh my god, my boot, not my foot, because it lacks that like critical thinking element, I guess, but I still really enjoyed it and gave it like 5 stars, so I would highly recommend it. And then we have The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is another classic. This is my favorite classic. I love The Picture of Dorian Gray. I think it's like 10 out of 10, like a book that I would highly recommend at any given moment to like anyone probably. And I'm definitely gonna say you're lucky that I'm gracing you with my ideas, because it is like, oh, loved it. We have arrived at the book that has scarred me from all romance books. I actually think I might make a video about this in the future if you guys are interested, about the Bromance Book Club, because this is the one romance that I read last year that absolutely made me never want to read a romance book ever again. The Bromance Book Club is about this guy. His name is... It's about this guy and his wife, and they're about to get a divorce because she's not satisfied in bed, and he's a little worried. So he goes to his guy friends and he's like, guys, I'm having problems. And his guy friends have this book club where they read romance books to try to fix their relationships with their wives. And they're like, you should join this. It's really helpful. We have a lot of fun. He joins. I mean, he was very hesitant about it to begin with. He joins this book club, and the whole book is following him trying to fix his relationship with his wife. Now, when I picked up this book, I was like, oh my god, I love this concept. It sounds funny. It sounds like a lot of friendship, but it also sounds like fun, like relationship drama. Maybe it'll be funny. Maybe it'll be romantic. This book was... I hated this book. It was absolutely terrible. I would give it 0 stars if I could, but I cannot, so I gave it 1 star. I am like fully ready to make a video about it if you guys are interested in another book rant video. The characters were awful. I hated every single person in this book. I hated the wife. I hated the kids. I hated the dog. I hated her sister. I hated everyone in this book, and it was the kind of relationship where I didn't even think that they needed to stay together. You know, at the end of the book, I feel like you should be rooting for them to stay together, and I absolutely was not. I honestly think that they would be happier if they got divorced. Those are my thoughts. It's also not nearly about what it promotes itself to be about. It's not really that funny, and the book club itself is like not really what it's all cracked up to be. So this is going straight to Call Me When You Want to Be Honest, because if the characters were honest with themselves about their problems, and if the book was honest with itself about how it was structured and written, it would be better, but it was absolutely not. So yeah, sorry if anyone likes that book. I honestly just like had a terrible time reading it, so I don't know if that's my opinion or if that's everyone's opinion. Let's move on. The last book is my absolute favorite. It's How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. I fell in love with this book. I gave it 5 stars. I read a lot more of Matt Haig's books after the fact. It's such a cute story. It's such a cute concept. It's so philosophical. It's so amazing. It's about this guy who basically lives longer than everyone else. He was born in like the 1400s, and he's like in the 2000s working as like a history teacher in London, which is, you know, kind of ironic because he literally lived through history and now he's like teaching it as like a 30-year-old. But then it's also cute because like it cuts back and forth to his life before, when he was in love and when there was disease and when he was living through history, and then also him like trying to accept the fact that he's now living in today's world, and like how it's kind of lonely because he's like constantly like being in a bunch of different lives because like he doesn't die. You know, like it's very, very good, very strong. I would highly recommend it. I loved it. 10 out of 10. You're lucky that I'm gracing you with my ideas. So on that positive note, we have now finished. This is our final tier thing. I think there's a lot of books that are in Kim, there's people that are dying. But I think that that's normal. I gave a lot of 3 stars last year. I didn't read a lot of books that were like top notch, you know, because I was just kind of getting into it. I didn't really know much about what I was into. So I don't know. I don't know what this says about my reading last year. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if you agree with my rating or if you don't agree. I hope that maybe I'll read enough books this year to do another tier ranking video about my books from this year, because I really had a lot of fun doing this. I think it's cool to like look back at what you read and kind of rank things. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me rant and rave about my favorite books and my least favorite books. Like I said, leave a comment if you read any of these. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and make sure to click that bell icon to be notified every time that I post. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye!